voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation at www.kaufman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. It was a rainy Palm Sunday in April 2014 when a white supremacist intent on killing Jewish people pulled into the Jewish Community Center in Overland Park. At the same time, Dr. William Corcoran was driving his 14-year-old grandson, Reed Underwood, to the same location so Reed could audition for a local singing competition. Reed never made it inside. He and his grandfather were gunned down in the parking lot. Then the shooter drove less than a mile away and killed Terry Lamano, who was going to visit her elderly mother at Village Shalom. All three victims were not Jewish, but fell at the hands of Jewish hate. Soon after, family and friends of the victims, led by Mindy Corcoran, Reed's mom, and Dr. Corcoran's daughter, started a nonprofit to counter hate with kindness. Along the way, many people have joined the campaign for kindness. This year, 7Days is commemorating its 10th anniversary. And here to talk about the journey and what's next is Mindy Corcoran and 7Days board president, John Kreutzmann. Welcome to Casey Cares.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi,
We're
Ruth.
glad to have you. All right. So, Mindy, I'm going to let you do kind of the lay of the land for this year, 10th anniversary. What does that look like for 7Days?
That's a big ask, Ruth, the whole lay of the land. Okay, well, it is the 10th anniversary, which seems really unbelievable in the first place that it's the 10th anniversary. So we are having a kindness breakfast. This is not a new event for us. This will be our third kindness breakfast. Yes, our third. It seems like maybe we had another one, but it's our third kindness breakfast. And it'll be at the Church of the Resurrection on April 10th. And that event is where we can gather the corporate sponsors. So we'll have individual ticket purchasers, but corporate sponsors. So it gives them an opportunity to come in and network and mingle, etc., all in the name of kindness. So at our breakfast, we get the opportunity to showcase what we've done in the last year and what our expectations are for the year ahead. So it's our opportunity to really shine in front of donors and sponsors. So we're working on that. We will present 8 artists button theme winners. And so there are 8 high school students who applied along with about, I think, 60 others for to be the button themed winners. And so they get to be announced and they'll get their award. And again, they're high school students. So that's really cool because we definitely try to focus on high school students a lot. And then also we will have this year 10 scholarship winners. So when I say scholarship winners, these are seniors in high school, not freshmen through senior. And the seniors have previously created an action, a kindness action, and that involved other people. They created it, they involved other people, and then they wrote an essay about it. And then they submitted their application to win a $1,000 scholarship. So we are getting a grant from Blessings Abound to help us with part of that. And we also got an individual contributor. And John, you'll have to let me know if I can use our individual contributor's name. Okay, so Gail Packer, who is the CEO of Terracon, is one of our individual contributors who's helping fund the scholarships. And then Blessings Abound has been instrumental in helping us determine how to measure going forward, like who we're looking for. So when foundations are getting started, what I didn't understand but have learned along the way, and really appreciate John's help, is measuring impact. And so we're working on that as well. So we have 10 scholarship winners instead of 5. This will be our first year for 10. And then the other big 10, Ruth, is we have 10 Ripple of Kindness finalists. So these are adults. They are out of high school. They've been out of high school a long time, they would say, and they have been doing acts of kindness for a lifetime. And all they're all planning on attending, and that will be awesome. So we're excited to talk about who our Ripple of Kindness finalists are as well. So it's a big morning, and this year it'll be a 2-hour event. And we've promoted it that way because we do have so much to share. We just cannot squeeze it in an hour or an hour and a half. and it'll be breakfast. So that's literally just the breakfast part. And then I won't go into all the detail, but we are also having a community kindness festival at the Jewish Community Campus. And that is on Sunday, April 14th. There's no charge for anyone. There's no mandatory registration, but we're asking for registration so we have an idea. And both of these activities are being planned with and by our Kindness Youth Leadership team and the help of our executive committee and our board of directors. I told you there was a lot.
That was great. No, that was great. You gave us all the perfect stuff that's happening this year. John, I want to bring you in. You came to 7 Days a little bit later in the game than Mindy, of course, who's been involved from the beginning. So I wanted to get from you a little perspective of when you joined and kind of what your role has been in moving the organization forward.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. The person's commonality is Gail Packer. So Mindy is friends with Gail Packer. She is our CEO here at Terracon, and she said, "Hey, are you interested in joining this nonprofit called 7 Days?" And I'm like, "Well, I need to know a little more." And so Mindy and I chatted, and then when I saw the mission as it has evolved, I'm like, I'm all in. So I joined the board probably almost 3 years ago, approximately. And then Mindy came to me about a year and a half ago and said, "Hey, lots on my plate. I will always, but I'd like to have somebody kind of, I call it run the back of the house." And I'm a restaurant guy from back in the days. So that's where that came from. And she will always be the face, the heart, the voice of 7 Days. But can you help me maybe in the back of the house with the team, with some of the measurements and setting up some of the infrastructure that we need, because here we are at the 10-year, and how do we take it to the next level? So that's what I've been doing. And I get to work with cool people like Ruth and other people's on the team. And my Friday morning is my 7 Days day, and I look forward to my Friday morning. So it's been a fun journey.
Well, thank you for the compliment, but that was not the intention of asking the question.
I know.
Wanted to share that. One thing I think that's interesting, Mindy, is I'd like for you to address how you, in the beginning, assembled a board and what you were looking for and what that looks like today.
Yes, very different, but still very different, yet still a little similar, but I'll explain. So in the beginning, I was just thinking about my heart. I was only thinking about my heart. And I pulled people in who knew my heart, and that was it. I mean, that's literally all I was thinking of. And I remember when I asked each of them, I said, what my heart needs right now. And my mom was on the board, and my younger brother, Tony, and Irv Robinson, a friend and Jewish man, and Gail Weinberg, a friend and Jewish woman, and Lori Mallory. And that was the very, very beginning. And there was no conversation that I can recall about measuring anything, or it was literally just, what are we going to do, and how are we going to start? And so they helped with the foundation. They helped with, and I don't mean the foundation as in the nonprofit, I mean the foundation of the nonprofit. And so that was the first board, and we had some ebbs and flows. We had some more people join, and they rolled off, etc. But now looking at the board, it doesn't mean that they don't have, not that they don't have heart, the board members, or nor do they not know my heart, but it's more strategic now. I realized after several years the importance of being strategic about thinking about your board. So in terms of skill set, um, who might you want to join your board that has an accounting background and actually enjoys looking at accounting spreadsheets? And so that was a big deal. So we added Kelsey Parker. And since that time, Kelsey was Kelsey Lynn Hart, and then she got married and became Kelsey Parker, and she's had a child, and she's with another child. So it's been really great to see Kelsey grow her family with our foundation. So things like that, like looking at skill set and listening, being in on how to be an executive team type meeting. So organizations that have helped, our nonprofit Connect has helped, and the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation has helped, listening to others. So now looking at the board, I focused on skill set. I thought about people who touch different parts of our community that I don't reach, So that's one thing. The way we reached John definitely is through Gail, but what I did with Gail Weinberg's help is we created an application. So we said, hey, how do we find people that want to be on a board? And so Gail Weinberg helped me create an application, and I sent that out to a whole group of people that I know and said, I'm looking for people that, board members. Do you have people at your corporation who might want to, do some volunteering and be on a board? So now that's what the board is made up of. And just recently, we added a board member who is part of the school system. So we just added David Stubblefield in late 23, and he's the assistant superintendent of schools in Shawnee Mission. And what's so important for us about that is that we work with students so much. So we work with students with our button winners, our kindness scholarship winners, and our kindness youth leadership team. And we want to make an impact, and we want it to be measured, and we want to be able to say to schools and the community and corporations, hey, look, this is what we wanted to do, and this is what we're trying to achieve, and now we're achieving it. So we just have a variety of people on the board now who can help us in different facets. So another board member who recently joined us is Rekha Sharma, who is an attorney, and then we have people who were past, or still writers. So Bill Timaeus wrote for the Kansas City Star for years, and unfortunately, when we need to have a press release or have something written because something negative might happen, we have writers on our board. So Enos Eunice is on our board, and she just became a city council member. So I would say to other nonprofits, and if you're just starting or you're wondering like what to do next, is really take a look at who is on your board, who do they represent, and what are they working at, what is their skill, and what other circle of people do they know, and then we've done a big job with that. Have to say how blessed we are to have John on the board, because after about, I don't know, 4 to 5 meetings, which it really encompass a year, I thought, okay, he's who I'm going to ask to replace me. And that's really how it took place, because I knew the importance of transition, having been in the wealth management industry and seeing families transition and companies transition. I knew there was going to come a time when I was going to need to step down, and it was coming quickly in my mind after about 7.5 years. And we were able to make the transition happen in the 9th year.
We're talking with Mindy Corcoran, who is co-founder of 7Days, and John Kreutzmann, who is board president. John, I remember when you came in and first became active on the board, there was some discussion with your organization about a name and whether to change names and all of that. Would you kind of give a little inside scoop from your perspective, what that looked like, and why did you change your name?
It was referring to Faith Always Wins, 7 Days, Ruth, as I'm assuming where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and give credit to Mindy. By this time, she, I think, had that diverse strategic board that she was looking for. And so we had I'll call it an annual meeting, actually here at Terracon office. And we said, hey, let's relook at this. And again, I give credit to Mindy for saying, hey, call a timeout. Let's go up to 10,000 feet and say, what makes sense? How do we move forward? let's look at the name, let's look at our mission, and let's just make sure we're aligned moving forward where we need to be based on what we have learned over the past 7.5, 8 years. So that was a catalyst, if you will. And there was some very healthy dialogue during that discussion, and both on the name. And we knew one of the things we learned is that faith always wins. The word faith, even though it wasn't a faith, but even the word faith for some corporations is like, oh my, that must mean something, and we shouldn't be, we have to be very, impartial. And so it scared some companies away, even though it wasn't a focus on a faith, it was interfaith. But we're like, okay, well, let's eliminate that challenge. And 7 Days is what people knew us as because of the program, right? So that was what the public knew us as. So why not just lean into that from that perspective? So that was the transition. That was quite honestly maybe the easier part than the mission statement. That's where we spent a lot of time choosing those words, literally word by word, with a lot of discussion and a lot of thought from that perspective.
Mindy, has the mission changed? When John says, recrafting that, has it changed or been fine-tuned? Share with us kind of that little tidbit.
Yeah, I would say that the mission has been fine-tuned. We came together as a new board, as a like more broad board with different skills and different backgrounds, and I've always been very thoughtful about having a diverse board. And so the very first group of people, while we represented Christianity and Judaism, we did not represent any different races. So we were all white people. And I think I forgot to mention Mike Miller. Mike Miller I was like, there was one more person on the board. Mike Miller represented Christianity, and Irving Gale represented Judaism. Anyway, so we became more diverse. So in terms of not only gender, but faith and race and just in general background. And so that's how we grew as a board. And so in this strategy session that we had at Terracon, we talked definitely about the name change. And then when we transitioned to talking about the mission, it wasn't that the heart of the mission was changing. It was that we weren't sure we had the right words. And I believe that those of us on the board originally had some fear about using the word hate in our mission, because we don't want to promote hate at all. In fact, we're completely against that. But to talk about, we promote kindness, we want to influence people about kindness. It was brought to our attention by several board members. Let's talk about what it is that why we're doing this. Let's talk about what happened. And what happened was a hate crime. A hate crime happened. And so we want to overcome hate. And so that was a very in-depth discussion. It took actually discussion then and then a couple of different meetings to really get the words right. And our mission statement is, we overcome hate by promoting kindness through education and dialogue. So we're very specific about what are we overcoming and what are we doing. So again, I feel like the original board and our original intent is just being spoken with better language right now.
John, since Mindy said she's so thrilled you're on board because it's outcomes and it's strategic and it's all that. So can you share with our audience a little bit, what are some of the outcomes that 7 Days has managed to achieve in just, it may feel like long 10 years, but in essence, in the life of an organization, that's not really a long time. Right.
So again, well, as Mindy talked about, our focus is youth, because we believe that's where we have, back to the objective and the mission that Mindy just talked about. We think that's the group that can be most, I guess, influence. And I don't mean that influence negatively, but just broaden their perspective, maybe is a better way to word that. And so that's where we focused our youth. So some of the areas where we've had a huge impact is our youth leadership team that Mindy referred to earlier. We have, I don't know the numbers, so even though I'm a numbers guy, I don't remember numbers. So that's kind of the sad part of that. But the number of youth that have gone through the youth leadership program has grown each year. The number of schools is represented, the number of school districts is represented. So we've increased that reach, if you will, of across the students in there. Same thing with, Mindy referred to our scholarships. We are having more people apply for these scholarships, both the Button Scholarship, the Button Art Scholarship, and also the scholarships as a whole. So we're trying to continue to increase our reach, which we've done a great job of on that. But quite honestly, we got more work to do in that arena. And that's where we're also focusing our efforts to continue to make sure we reach all of Kansas City, to have that influence and that impact to overcome hate.
Now, have you tracked kiddos that have come through your programs or have touched the organization in some way?
Yes, we have. And that's why I said I don't have the numbers up to top of my head, but we track that. And Ruth, as you know, in that question, we also developed a strategic plan here in the last, well, I guess 6 months. And that was something that was important to me because I felt like that was that next step for us. Like, okay, how do we get even more clarity on what we want to achieve? Because there's a lot of different avenues we can go, and they're all good ones. But when you're a limited number of resources, you got to choose wisely and kind of focus all of your resources against that, both financially, people, et cetera. And so we've said, hey, look, let's really tackle that high school group of Kansas City. That's why getting Dr. David Stubblefield on the board was huge, to be able to say, here's how principals see it. Here's how superintendents see it. Here's how we can help you. So the two of the areas that we are focusing our growth on is kind of that center of Kansas City, if you will. Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Mo, and other school areas in that center, so that we can continue to really get all of Kansas City and address this. Because this is, again, the challenge, as Mindy's referred to earlier. This is only going to get more challenging as time goes on. I wish it was the other direction, but it's that way. So we've got to have more impact and more reach.
Mindy, some folks who may known 7Days in its earlier years, there was a lot of stuff for adults to do. So does the organization encourage adult involvement, or how does that play out, since you do have such a fine-tuned focus on kids?
Yes. So, frankly, this was discussed in our strategic session in 2022 when we had the name change. So we do want adults to participate, absolutely. But what we were doing, just so I can remind people, what we were doing is we hosted events on our own, and we had people come to us, and we were probably engaging about the same 300 to 400 people every single event, the exact same people who were great. They were fantastic. They were, proselytizing what we were doing in 7 days, but we weren't growing beyond that. So we realized that we weren't reaching beyond that. So to change anyone's perspective on the importance of kindness, how do you do that? And we decided that we needed to really aim more at youth in particular, and helping youth. So, but adults now, what they can do, because we are not hosting a lot of like the 7 events in a row that we used to do. So one, adults on their own can volunteer and they can be ambassadors. But the other thing that's available, and Terracon's going to participate, the Jewish community campus is participating, St. Luke's Health Center participates every year, is that companies adopt 7 days. And one company in particular, so Adams Gabbert is a technology company, and they adopt 7 days. One year they adopted 7 days for 7 weeks. So they adopted our themes, and they had a love week, and then they had a discover week, and then they had an others week. And so they adopted 7 days for 7 weeks right before the end of 7 days in April. And then St. Luke's Health adopts 7 days all the entire month of April, and they put on competitions, and they hand out kindness cards, and etc. So yes, adults can participate, and they typically can participate either via their church or their synagogue or their mosque, any kind of faith group, their Buddhist temple, or they can participate or from their corporation. And so we definitely encourage that. So the difference is we're not hosting those type of, hey, adults, come gather and see this. We're not hosting those types of events. And then the events we are hosting are almost all youth led, and the youth are part of it. They create part of what happens at the event, and they help plan the activity, and they get mentoring along the way.
Where is the best place for people to find out how they could volunteer or engage with you? John, I'll let you
Yeah,
answer that one.
I will. I've got the website over here on my other screen, so I'm prepared for that question. 7days.org. That's where you can go on there, and there's opportunities for you to volunteer right there online that you can select to be an ambassador that Mindy referred to. And again, if you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know when I can do it, great. Sign up. We'll call you and we'll figure out what you enjoy to do, what you want to do. And I bet you will figure out a way to make that impactful and hopefully a little fun along the journey. So yeah, 7days.org.
Mindy, I know we just have a few minutes left, but I wanted to put out there, well, people would say, isn't kindness free? So how come you're raising money?
Well, that's great. So we're raising money because we've created resources to put in schools, and those resources go to the schools for free. And resources that we create cost us money. So those resources specifically are posters that talk about kindness actions to have on our themes. So our themes are love, discover, others, connect, you, go, and onward. So we have 7 themes plus the 7 days. So you could have 7 days and or 8 days of acts of kindness. And the posters are resources. And then we also have bookmarks, and we have elementary school, middle school, and high school bookmarks. And these have been curated by librarians, and they've generated for us what are books that teach kindness at the elementary age, middle school age, and high school age. So those are bookmarks that we have printed. And so these are just one example of resources that we put and make available to teachers, librarians, teachers, counselors, and they can come and pick them up for free on their end, but obviously they're not free to us. So we raise money for that. And then the other thing, Ruth, is that we're in over 13 states because we also, as a foundation, offer grants. So we offer small grants of about $500 each. And these grants would go to an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school who want to start a kindness club or want to have a kindness walk of their own. And we're in, again, a variety of states where people have found us, either from a connection that they have in Kansas City or online from our Instagram or our Facebook page. And they apply and they give us their whole synopsis on what they want to do and why. And our director of youth engagement, Jill Anderson, and our admin, Susie Ratliff, they handle all of that for us. They look at the application. They make sure it's, fits everything we want to do. We issue the money, and then we get back information about those schools now participating in 7 days of kindness. So they're making a ripple and changing the world with resources that we have to raise money for.
Very good. Well, I wanted to make sure because sometimes I think people say, oh, I'll write a check. They get motivated and then they go, well, wait a minute, what did I just write that check for? Mm-hmm. And you're teaching kindness and you're putting things out there in the community. Want to give you each just a quick second or two. Where's 7 days in the future? Mindy.
Well, I'm going to say I am very, very thankful that we have a skilled and healthy looking board of directors, and that we have John Pretzman in place as president and Molly Kerr in place as vice president. I'm thrilled that we have different generations on our board. We have 2 young people on our board, one of whom was the initial young man who helped me start the youth advisory board. So Jake Goldman helped start Faith Always Wins, and full circle, he's now on our board. And then Samantha Ferguson is also on our board. And she was, I've known Samantha since she was 1 year old. She was a friend of the family. And so these 2 young people, all the way up to, I won't say who's the oldest on our board, but we have lots of generations. We probably have 5 generations represented. So the vision is to, I'm going to let John talk about specifically the measurements in Kansas City, but I would say the vision for me is that we will have another 10 years because we've bootstrapped it to here. And now I feel like we just have so much more opportunity with people in place who have a different viewpoint and different abilities. and I will stay on board. And I'm also excited to say that Lucas Lowson, so our second son, is going to participate much more in 7 days going forward now that he's graduating college. So we're definitely reaching the younger generations, which is our goal.
John?
Yeah, I'll add to that. As Mindy said, over the first 10 years, we've got a lot of Kansas City school districts, and we are in 14 states. But we got to speed it up because, there's a lot of things to overcome, if you will. And so that ripple, I'd like to have that ripple move a little faster because of the opposition that's out there, sadly, from that perspective. So we're trying to figure out how to make sure we get all of Kansas City so that when other cities say, well, why are we just in one or two schools here in Indianapolis, Dallas, Chicago? We're going to figure out how to do that so that we can maybe be that playbook, if you will, or template, or what do you want to call it, to say, hey, here's how you get there and there. And we're learning that as we go. So we haven't got it all figured out, but we're going to get in there. We're going to measure the increased schools and the school districts, the number of students we touch, and the impact we're having. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do, is make a difference in that heart that Mindy started with as we started this discussion.
Well, thank both of you for the work that you do with 7 Days. Congratulations on 10 years of moving the needle on kindness. And I look forward to circling back around and hearing what might be up for next year.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you for joining us.
Ruth, thanks for making a ripple of kindness.
Yes.
You are welcome. And thank you for joining us for Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit. And this Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. Spread the love, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio, and on Instagram at Casey Cares Online. All other kinds of details are at our website, CaseyCaresOnline.org, and spread the love. On Saturday mornings, you can catch us at 8 a.m. on ESPN 5010 AM and 94.5 FM. Thanks for joining us on Casey Cares.